Yep,
Yep.
we're live. Cool.
Hey, folks. Scott and I are back this week with another great topic. This one I really love talking about. So, this week we're talking about how to manage a dog that's lunging on leash. So, this is like a really common one. I get a lot of calls about this, but there's actually things you guys can do to get ahead of this so that, although I love for you guys to call for my help, but if you guys could do it on your own, that's ideal. So I just wanted to go through a few things to kind of help you guys to manage your dog lunging and barking on leash. But first, I have to check in about Archie. How is Archie on leash?
Archie has his moments, so he will lunge at other dogs sometimes. You can tell, like, I can sort of understand when it's about to happen. I have high value treats with me at all times, usually high value, low
Hmm.
value for like
Yep.
different things, but high value. And so when I see uh, there might be a chance, then I break out the high value, and they're actually like beef sticks, so they're hard enough that you can snap them. They're not soft, so
Yep.
the snap sound also triggers them to get back to me.
Yes.
But once in a
Yep.
while, we get in a situation. There's no stopping it. It's just he's going to react, and he does, and so he'll lunge and all that sort of thing. When it first happened, it definitely caught us off
Uh-huh.
guard. It was definitely like, what is happening? Are they trying to
Hmm.
play? Are they trying to wrestle? And then I
Exactly.
remember one time early on, I was like, oh, maybe if I just let them play, it'll be okay. That was a very bad idea.
Like, no.
So no, that was a no. Don't do that again. So I learned very
Yep.
quickly. Don't do that again. Uh,
Yeah.
Definitely, he's. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes it's like, okay, he really wants to play because he's very social off leash. Other
Hmm.
times, like, nope, that dog. You look at that dog like he's your mortal enemy. So
Yep.
uh, you
You're like,
probably
nope,
don't
that's
take him.
exactly. So it sounds like it just depends on the situation. It goes smooth, and the other times it just depends. But what Scott is talking, Scott kind of learned from trial and error, guys, which is fine as well. But a lot of things that Scott is talking about is actually true, like using treats to help them along and stuff. So, but I want to first by talking to you guys about understanding why dogs bark and lunge at other dogs. So your dog can bark and lunge at other dogs for various reasons. They can lunge at other dogs simply because they're excited to meet the other dog or person or whatever it is that they're triggered by. So it could be just simple excitement. And a lot of times, dogs can bark and lunge because they're fearful of something they're triggered by, and usually it's by another dog, person. Sometimes it's kids. It could be a various amount of things that they can be triggered by. So those are two things why dogs bark and lunge. And so, with that being said, you can do a few things to kind of help them before they even get to this stage. A lot of people think dogs know how to walk on leash, but they don't. But let's start first with equipment, using simple things like a harness to help your dog not pull and manage your dog on leash. So what that means is sometimes people will get the harnesses that clip in the back here. And when you get the harnesses that clip in the back, it actually increases the dog's pulling and makes them want to pull more. Because if you think about it, for like in human world, it's similar to saying, "Hey, let me handcuff you now. Go say hi." So it makes it kind of frustrating and difficult. Leashes are like man-made things. Dogs don't like being restrained, so in return, it actually increases them lunging and barking. So try getting a front clip harness, a harness that clips in the chest area, because what it does when the dog tries to pull, it decreases their pulling because it makes them pull to the side as opposed to helping them pull forward. What kind of leashes? I mean, not leashes. Harnesses. Do you use any harness on Archie at all?
Yeah, we have a harness has a front clip and a back clip because he is pretty strong.
Yep.
So we found like the front clip was good, but he could still sort of pull himself, and he was still strong enough to sometimes, if he really, really wanted to, pull through the
Hmm.
pull going to the side. So we found that the back and the front sort of really sort of almost gives him a hug. It causes the harness to bear hug
Exactly.
on when he pulls on it, so then he can't really go anywhere. And we kind of just learned about we had it more for my mom when she walked him because he's so strong. And then
Yep.
one day we had a collar like a martingale, and then a leash,
Yep.
and it got dirty, and so he put this harness on him. And then he wanted to go see his mom, who he's just like, she's the most favorite person in the world, and
Yep.
usually he pulls real hard and drags me to her. But with this, he couldn't drag me. He like locked himself in. He's like,
Exactly.
I was like, whoa, what's happening right now? So
Hmm.
it's always like, because of his size, he's 80 pounds and he's strong and all that. And the back, we tried very early on when he was a back clip guy, and then until he's dragging us on our feet type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So you put them on the back clip. Then it's like, okay, we need something more. So what Scott's talking about, because in addition to using a front clip harness, if your dog needs a little bit more direction, you can use the front and back clip and use a double clip harness. It's kind of like steering a horse. But also, in addition to using a harness, if your dog needs, some dogs need the guidance from the head back. And in that case, you can use a gentle leader, which is simply just a little device that goes around the dog's muzzle. It's not a harness. People who don't know much about, not know much, or sometimes it may look like not a harness. What is it? A muzzle, but it's not a muzzle. It's actually a gentle leader. It just goes around the dog's muzzle, and it basically does the same thing as a harness, redirects them when they're pulling, but it gives them more guidance from the head back, and a harness does it from the chest back. So if you have a strong puller, you can get that in addition. I always talk to my client about the length of the leash they have as well. If you have a 6-foot leash, you want to get a 4-foot leash, or if you have a retractable leash, you want to get a shorter leash. So if you're using a retractable leash on walks and you have a dog that pulls, it doesn't give them a sense of when not to pull, because it's kind of yo-yo in. So you want to so it doesn't give them a sense of guidance. So you want to get the 4-foot leash because it'll give you better guidance, and it keeps your dog next to you. And there is a proper way to hold the leash and stop holding it by the loop here and the handle, and then using a little clip apart and holding it down there, and even guiding the dog to stay next to you is helpful. So getting a shorter leash, also using a harness, and if you need more guidance, using the gentle leader. So in addition to that, I also talk about exercise. Exercise is pretty simple and key. I tell folks, before you even go for a walk, try to exercise your dog indoors, whether you're playing fetch with them in the backyard, you're doing a game of find it, having them searching for treats to exhaust them out, so that when you go outside, they're more exhausted, and then they can kind of walk along more nicely. Do you ever exercise Archie before you go out, or you just kind of, go?
Sometimes we do. So like a lot of times recently, he's been getting the ball that lets out his lunch before he goes out at lunchtime type of thing, or before dinner time. So he's sort of warmed up a bit. Otherwise, we don't do a ton of stuff because it's just we don't have a ton of time to do it.
Exactly.
But,
exactly.
It's one of those things where if we can, we try to, but it's always hit or miss type of thing too, right? So. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you can, ideally exercise them before you go out, but if not, it's okay. You can still, take them out and, have them do some sniffing on the walks like that. Yeah. One thing I talk about too is situational awareness. So if you know that your dog is triggered by certain things like people or dogs, try to pick a time to go out where there's not as many triggers. So if you know that, 10 a.m. in the morning, there's a lot of dogs out and your dog's triggered by that, try taking them either before or after that, because the more a dog's exposed to the trigger or even practicing a behavior, the harder it's going to be to change. So if you can kind of manage the situation by going out at unlikely times where there's not going to be those triggers around, your dogs will love you for that, and it'll make the walk a little bit more better for you guys as well. When it comes down to your dog's behavior and why they're lunging and stuff, you want to try to change their emotional response. So everything I talked to you guys about before is more so how to manage it. But when you want to start to train and stuff like that, you want to have them feel good about seeing the trigger. And so that's what Scott was talking about as far as using treats. So what you can do too is bring treats with you on a walk with you. And before you notice, start looking at your surroundings. So you're noticing your dog's trigger before the dog's noticing it. And you can start giving your dogs treats as the trigger's walking by. And then when the trigger is gone, you stop giving your dogs treats. And then you do that every single time your dog sees that trigger. And then what happens is when your dog sees that trigger, they look to you for treats instead of, barking and lunging at the dog. So in addition to, trying to manage the situation, going out at ideal times, bring treats out with you, make it like a sweet deal. And I always tell folks too, if you're using low value treats in house, try using something special when you're going out on a walk with you. So they'll associate the walk even with something special, and they'll be looking to you for treats as well. When you go out with Archie, do you feel like he's more focused on you when you're using treats?
In different situations. So I notice that like if it's just nothing's around us, he'll be
Yeah,
sniffing, doing his thing. He doesn't pull too much these days, but uh, I noticed recently if we because like where we walk, there's like sidewalks on both sides of the roads and
yep,
everything. If he sees a dog on the other side of the road, or he sees a dog coming, a lot of times he'll actually look back at me and or look up at me and like expecting the treat now.
exactly.
And so I
Hmm.
give it to him, give him like to break up the pieces of the beef stick and that sort of thing, and give it to him. And then even as the dog passes and he's still looking back, then he'll look back at me for the treat again. And then I just let him know, okay, keep walking and that sort of thing. I treat him once it's pretty much out of sight, and then but it's pretty amazing once as you work on it, work on it, and then they
Yep,
really actually start to look up to you and expect something, and then now they're not looking to react to that source of reaction that happened before. Now they're actually
hmm,
looking for the reward because they didn't do it, and they're expecting, and then you give it to them, reward them, make sure that they reinforce it, right? And
exactly.
yeah, so yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Treats are like the greatest. And also what Scott's talking about too, like Archie looks at them more. You can teach a dog something they can't do instead. So instead of barking and lunging, you could teach them to look at you instead when the trigger comes. So teaching your dog the look command or watch me command so that, when they see the dog, you can say look or watch me. That's something you want to start indoors before you practice it outside. Just like I tell folks, if you have a dog that jumps, you want to teach them to sit because they can't jump and sit at the same time. So it's just called teaching them an incompatible behavior. So you can try doing that as well. But with all these tips in mind, like I said, you want to, if your dog is not used to loose leash walking or they're not even got on the path of that, you can teach them how to walk next to you. It's called attention walking. So they're focused on you and they're staying next to you. So you can start there indoors. But hopefully, you guys have gained some tools and tips to learn how to manage your dog while out and about. But again, it starts with the equipment. So start there, get the harness, get a shorter leash until you can start to do some type of training. And as always, sometimes you can start these things on your own, but you may need a trainer like myself for guidance and a little structure behind it. So feel free to reach out to me if you guys need help with that structure. And Scott, if you have anything to piggyback, off
yeah.
of with the
I think
folks.
everything people learn hopefully today will help them with that journey. It does take some time, but a lot of times when we're walking our dogs, we don't see the things that like a dog trainer might see watching us and that sort of thing, and be able to point
Yes,
out little things maybe we're doing to trigger people. And also we have to remember our emotions. They can feel our emotions.
exactly.
We're
Yep.
triggered by something, or we start to get anxious, they're going to start to get anxious too, right? So those
Hmm.
things. But if you want any help, definitely reach out to Pam. If you
Hmm.
want a quick guide for like loose leash walking, I put that in the description of the original post as well. You can jump over there, grab that. And otherwise, hopefully this helps you out to at least get started with how to manage your dog, and so
Yep.
they don't lunge as much, and you don't get caught off guard like I did in the very beginning. So
Exactly. And spring's coming right around the corner. You want to go out. It's
yeah,
nice. So let's get them all trained and managed.
for sure, for sure.
Yep.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next week with another awesome live. Okay.
Bye. Mhm.